Hey guys, it's Ramblin Bob here with another cool review. So this is the OUKITEL P2001 2000 watt power station. It's a pretty nice little unit. I'm going to tell you the pros and the cons of what I like and what I dislike about this system. We're going to fire it up here. As you heard, it kicked on. Okay, we're going to start over here at the beginning because that's the best place to start. So this is your DC out, okay? The system is on, but none of the inverters or the light is on right now, so it just kind of idles. Okay, so you hit the little button for the DC here. Each one has a little corresponding button, very nice, and the AC is around the side, which I'll show you that in a minute. So let's start at the AC. So you have a 12-volt cigarette lighter. Everybody's got that back in the days in the car. Everybody knows what that is. You can run 12 volts at 10 amps. It is a regulated output. But you also have something that's a little different for power stations. If you're an RC kid, like I was, then you know what this is. This is an XT60. A lot of power packs for RC cars and planes and whatnot, they have these. So it's nice if you have, that in mind, the RC world. That's pretty tough to close. And then you have two barrels, which are 5521s or 5525s. I'm not sure because I don't use barrels. I haven't used those in years. I did try these and test them, but a 5525 and a 5521 will fit, even though I recommend getting obviously the right size. I think they're 5521. So that's this whole section. Now you can pull 10 amps in a combination of any series that you want. So you can, these are only 3 amps a piece. So if you were to pull 5 and 5, you could do that. If you were to pull like 2, 2, 2, and 2, that's 8, then you'd have 2 extra ones somewhere else. But it has to be in a combination. Usually when you hit that 120 watts output, the faults pop on. Okay, so that section's done. Now the middle section is pretty neat because it has a lot of ports. No covers on the ports now like this side had. I wish it had little covers on there. I suppose you could buy, those things that they have for laptops that you push inside the ports to keep the dust out. You could probably put those on there. I didn't, but it probably cost you a couple bucks. So just by doing that, you could turn on, as you see, the USB section. So the neat thing about it is you have what are called, I guess they call them dinosaur ports. These are USB-A at 2.4 amps each, 5 volts at 2.4 amps. So you have 2 of those. That's nice for phones if you want to convert that to C or whatever, or micro or micro B, or whatever port you have. And if these are full, you can convert these over. So it's not a problem, but it's just very slow, 2.4 amps. So the next one over is known as a quick charge. Now the quick charge is 18 watts. So you have USB-A and USB-A, but the quick charge 3.0 is 18 watts. These you get just over 12. This is 18. It doesn't sound like much, but when you charge your phone, you'll see the difference. So now you have those two at 5 volts 2.4. These USB-A's at 18 for quick charge, and then you have these guys over here. Now these guys are pretty cool. These are called power delivery ports. They're USB-C, so you just plug your phone straight into that, and this can go all the way up to 20 volts at 5 amps, which is 100 watts. They're only output. You can't put any energy into the system with that. But as for an output, these together will work as 100 watts. So basically, if you plug one phone in there, it'll charge up to 100 watts. If you plug 2 phones in there and they're equally as hungry for the battery power, one will drop down to about 65 watts and the other one will go to about 35 watts. And that'll kind of hand power back and forth as needed. So the bad thing about it is it's not 2 full 100 watt power delivery ports, but it is 100 in combination. So say you're charging 2 phones and you don't want to come back and take one out and plug the other one in. You could plug one in and charge it at 65 and plug another one at 35, and when you come back they'll both be done. And then if one finishes early, it obviously uses that extra power and gives it back to the other port. So if this one was done, it would give full 100 watts back to the other port. So it's a nice feature. I wish they were both 100 watts out, but they're not. But it is a nice feature to have 2. So moving over to the right, you have, as you saw before, this big blind thing. So you have a standard light, which is very bright. That's SOS. And then that's just a strobe light. So I don't know if you want to have a party in the woods with aliens or whatever, but I can't ever see. Maybe you know, I don't even know. Maybe because you have the SOS, I don't know why you need a dancing strobe light, unless you're gonna, you know, have a party while you're camping. Maybe, you never know. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna move to the side here. Okay, now I've had this a very long time for this unit, more than a year, so I know just about all the ins and outs of this. This is also a 48-volt battery pack. I forgot to mention that. So the whole system is set up to 48 volts. So when you open this little flap right here, you have your input. Now that's a standard cord. You guys have them later around the house. It's a standard computer cord, except the one that comes with here is a little bit fatter. And the reason for that is because you're going to pull 1100 watts. It's called the supercharge. A standard 120 outlet, 100 to 120 outlet, which is standard house outlet. So that's a lot of power, so you need a fatter cable. So they give you one in there, and I'll show you where it is in a minute. And then over here, this is your solar input. This is what's called an Anderson power pole. I like them and I don't. I like MC4 better, and I'll tell you a mod about that later. But if you keep it original, this is a Anderson power pole at 15 amps. So you can use input of solar panels from 12 volt to 48 volts up to 15 amps, maxed out at 500 watts. So it would take approximately, give or take, about 4 hours to charge this up all the way from 0 to 100 using solar. It's good, but there's other systems out there that allow much more input. And when you're, you know, dealing with the sun, you only get about 5 hours a day on average of good sun. It's called peak sun hours. So it's a solar day. You only get 5 hours. So if you take 5 and you times it by 5, you get 2,500 watt hours at absolute optimal conditions. Now the problem with that is we all know that we've used solar. Boy, you just don't get that. You got to fight everything from, man, the clouds, the squirrels, the birds, the rain, the snow. I mean, there's so many variables. The thickness of the wire coming in, the gauge, the style of the wire, if it's copper or tin copper. There's so many variables that could affect that. So the most input you want to get in there, because the day is short and the sun is short too. Now above here is this is a very cool feature. This has a overload protection circuit breaker. I like circuit breaker. I have another model that has blade fuses, but who's going to have blade fuses in your pocket when you're out fishing, right? You might have them in your car, but if you don't, you're kind of SOL. But this, you have a circuit. So if it overheats or pops or anything, you just hit the button, it resets the circuit. Very nice touch for OUKITEL. Thumbs up on that one. Okay, so now we're going to turn it to this side. It is heavy. It's about 48.5 pounds. I always round them up to 50 pounds. Easy to remember. So this is your AC side. These are the vents. There's a little bit of vents over there, so the fans are on this side, and then it kind of sucks it out this way and brings it in that way. Here's your AC panel. So you hit the little button here, and notice that turned on the inverter. You heard the click. Once that turns on the inverter, then these are active. So we're going to turn that off just so we can open this here and take a look. So inside here, little flap doors. Inside here you have 6 receptacles at 110 volts each. It's nice. I wish they were 120. 120 is like the standard for our house. If you know, like if you can get even higher than that, like 122, 124, awesome. I'm a sound guy. The more voltage, the better, until you reach that breaking point of too much voltage. But I'll always take a little bit more voltage than not enough in every situation. More power for the volts. So you have up to 2,000 watts as a whole. So if this was 200, 200, 200, 200, 200, that's 1,000. You can put 1,000 on there. So any combination up to 2,000 watts. You can surge a little bit past there. It does go a little bit past. I think I got to maybe 2,100, maybe 2,150, and then it popped, and then you have to reset it. It faults out. But it's nice because it goes actually over the rated amount by a little bit. And I like that because who knows what the heck you're going to plug in there on any given day. So it's always nice to have a little bit more power than what you expected. The handles, aluminum, they get very chilly very quick, but they do heat up very quick. Being aluminum, it's a good transfer of heat and cold. There's other ones that have like rubberized covers for these that are very comfortable. At 50 pounds, the handles can be a little bit slippery because of aluminum, so you don't want to drop this. If you drop this on your foot, I guarantee you'll remember that for a long time. Now, back to one of the coolest things that this box has. Oh, not to mention the entire case is made of ABS plastic. That's a very, very, very strong, durable plastic. I mean, I'm surprised they haven't started making all kinds of things out of it, which they probably have, you know, boats and car pieces and all kinds of stuff. ABS plastic is very tough stuff. I could stand on this with no problem. You wouldn't even have any problems with that. Very, very durable construction. Props up to OUKITEL for that, too. Now, here's one of the coolest features I've ever seen on any power station. One of my favorites. I'm going to tilt it down so you can see it. Let's see if you can see that. Okay, do you see this part up here? There's no wireless charging for the phone, which I don't have a wireless charging phone, so I'm okay with that. But what this has, I've never seen on another power station so far that I haven't seen. It could be out there, but I haven't seen it. So what it is, I call it the glove compartment or the trunk. So you open it up like this, okay? And inside, look at that. It's all the cables you need. You got your heavy-duty AC cable for 1100 watt charging. And then you have your Anderson power pole. And look at that. It converts to MC4s, which these are waterproof. I like that. These are watershed. These are waterproof. There's a huge difference. Shouldn't use this in the rain, but I always like waterproof because waterproof keeps the dust out and everything. So this is a nice little compartment. It's probably about maybe, I want to say about 2 inches deep, and it's about this. So it's about 6 inches by 6 inches by 2 inches. So if you put the cord in there like that, it's one of the coolest features I like about this. You could put your phone in there if it's small enough. You could put your wallet in there. You can put all kinds of stuff in there, little goodies in there. Okay, so that goes in there like that. And then notice this, like a trunk or a glove compartment, it just pops up in there. So that is, in a nutshell, the OUKITEL P2001 power station. It's 2,000 watt hours. Now, the most important information about this model, and I think hands down, if you buy any power station, the watt hours is the absolute deciding factor, other than does it work when you buy a power station. This is rated at 2,000 watt hours. Now, I have a problem with that, and that problem is I'll let you look at it for a minute here. This says 80, okay? Now, what'll happen is, as it sits, let me just pop all this stuff on, and then let me pop it off, and you can see. So we'll watch this. As you see, that bounces around a lot. It's kind of, gaining it back up. But every once in a while, this will move up and down. See? 80, 72, 80, 72. So the problem with this model is the capacity rating. I'm only able to pull about 1,550 watts out of here completely, from 100% down to shut off, drained. Notice this is still bouncing around. This model, unfortunately, for 75% capacity rating, that's the one drawback with this model. I don't like the capacity rating for this model. 75%, it just feels like you lost 25% of your money. If OUKITEL would have rated this a 1,500 watt hour box, and then you got 1,550, and we got 105% or 110%, thumbs up. But because this is supposed to be a 200 watt system, see, it's still bouncing around, the inverters and the system has a lot of leakage as far as vampire device kind of, where it wastes energy just being on. And I'm not a big fan of any equipment like that. So, the last thing and important too is when you charge solar, when you put the input in, if the voltage is not up high enough to start that inverter, you will hear the most annoying beep click, like that all morning until the voltage gets high enough to charge. And then at night, obviously, when the sun goes down, it does the same thing. Beep, click, and it drove me crazy. So that's my review of this model. I really hope you guys liked it. And ramble on, and I'll see you on the next review. Thank you.